Alrighty, looks like audio's going. That's excellent. Today's lesson will be, we're gonna go off topic and have fun today. Admit. All right. People start coming in. Excellent. All right, so this stuff is squared.
Good afternoon, Dr. Hurst.
Good afternoon. Integrating concepts. We need to talk about the
How's it going?
it is going. Today, we're gonna have some fun conversation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'll move this out like right. Sweet. All right.
So I got some questions about. I
Yes.
said that paper, that first part of that.
Yes. So that's gonna be our focus for today is, oh, that's the wrong paper. Make sure I grab the right ones off my desk. I just saw them, but I'm dealing with a lot of papers right now. Introductions, not those. Hopefully I wanted to go reprint them real quick.
Oh, I'm set.
Oh, there we go.
I kind of understood it.
Yeah, so we were on, how was it, the social theories.
Seven,
I'd have to go back and look.
or seven.
7 sounds right, because I think, I didn't need those on my desk, no, it's good there. That's gotta be that.
I got to leave that.
No, that's not them either, but that's okay. We're saying 3, that's good. Where did I just have those? This is why I love dealing with actual paper. It's so easy to misplace.
That would be hard to keep all these classes square.
Oh my goodness, you have no idea.
Warrior.
Yeah, here it is. That's the big thing is I usually don't. And I tell people that quite seriously. It's like, I have no idea where I'm at most of the time. I just come in and start rattling off information as best as I can. Hope these things.
What was I?
Yeah, it's like, what class was that? I know I just talked about this concept somewhere else. Like we were talking about, what was it, not policing?
Talk about your kind last time and not.
Yeah.
Me theory.
Enemy, yeah.
Just barely
So,
touched on.
Yeah, so Enemy and Durkheim are the roots for social disorganization theory. He's one of the biggest people in sociology at large, and that's gonna be the roots, the ties that bind us to that field, what led us to start developing. If you want a full development on the history of criminal justice, the next guy you need to look at is August Vollmer. He's out of California. I'm gonna say Berkeley. I think he was the chief of police there, kind of
Like
thing.
policing.
Yeah. He was on the policing
Yeah,
side.
so we kind of talked about him a little bit.
Yeah, you'll probably.
Intro.
Mhm. And that's where he'll come up, because he's seen as the father. What it was is, he's the one who actually put the fuel to the fire. It's like we had sociologists at this one, he's the one who said, hey, we have a need for this as its own, really put that into action. So that's why it's like everyone throws the credit his way, because that was a hard thing.
About that paper first, you want to wait till?
Well, that's gonna be the whole subject for today.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna show you guys how to develop them. Starting
Yeah,
to
so I got it about done. I just got a couple questions on references.
Yeah.
I get a little confused on that when you have an internet article
Mm-hmm.
and because usually you put in the parentheses, you put the names of the authors,
Mm-hmm.
but in the internet article, sometimes it doesn't show it, so.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And so that's
So what
one
do
of the
you do?
things that's why I'm gonna talk about
Okay.
today. Because it's one of those things that if you don't know, you don't know. And it's not always something that's directly identified in like in your classes, in your papers, that kind of thing. And so this is a good time to have this conversation in this class, because this is the class where we take a whole bunch of abstract ideas and we start putting them together.
Yeah, I kind of had some problems with that
Mm-hmm.
in the history.
Well, it's just not the way we normally do
I
things.
put everything down that I thought was supposed to be, no, that's plagiarism.
Yeah,
I didn't put quotation marks around something.
Oh, and that's another thing. And so we probably should talk about, citations and like
Yeah, because that's
how they work, just because.
just a review of it.
Mhm. Well, one, they're a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's just Yeah, but what they do is the reason we use them the way they do is a little bit different than how you guys use them. And just in the last semester or so, that's really become evident to me. So I'm going to talk about that.
Well, plus I'm a little bit behind the times. Most of these kids know all this computer stuff,
Mhm.
and I'm, I never had that.
That's just speed is all that is.
Well, but
It's-
they know
it's-
most of this stuff. and
Yeah.
Most of it's just because I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm ignorant. It's not that I don't.
No,
But
that's-
I'm ignorant of the topics of that. so-
Well, and that's the whole thing is, basically what we're doing is we're trying to make the unknown over here to the known.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that's the overall process that we're dealing with, is trying to just understand things.
Plus, if we make one little mistake on that, it's plagiarism.
Oh, yeah,
It
and
doesn't matter what your intent was.
Yeah.
It's just they say, oh, you're plagiarized 0, we don't care.
oh, yeah, and that's one of those things
I
that's
had
like,
that happen to me in a history thing.
yeah, my favorite's the what's common knowledge.
Yeah.
Because that's really the dividing line for what you should cite and what you shouldn't. It's like, I can't tell you that.
That's true too.
It's like, I literally can't tell you that. It's like, okay, give me a specific topic and what you're trying to say, and I have to stop and think about it. And it's like, I've spent how many years in this area?
Yeah.
And it's the same if you talk to the other people in my department who've been here even longer and doing the same thing even longer. It's like, hold on, what are you talking about? And so it's always like that.
See, that's why I started paraphrasing.
Oh, yeah.
And just instead of word for word, I'd paraphrase it, and then I'd put the citations and the references, and then I figured I'm covered if I do that. So.
Oh, yeah. And then, so that's more on the technical side,
Yeah,
like
right,
ethical.
that's exactly right. I
you know,
got in trouble
and,
with the technical.
Yeah, and so it's like, from the outset, what I look at whenever I look at stuff is I really don't care. What I'm looking at is, I'm looking at multiple things all at once, and I know, and you guys probably know it too, 'cause it's like, to some degree, anytime I see, whether it's an outline or written work, it's, okay, to some degree, it's, how much information did you go and gather, and how well did you read it, and how well did you put it together? And then from those things, it's like, okay, how interested you are in it, maybe, or maybe it's how well was it presented to you? And so there's all these factors all at once, and so the easiest way to start delving into stuff like that is the same process we do it in this class or in the methods, because anytime you're dealing with that, what you have is, we're delving into something that's completely unknown, and so we have to figure out how to get there.
To the no,
Mhm.
through finding the right sources.
Yeah, and that's just one of
That's-
those processes.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is one that's reiterative, and there are multiple throughout the entire thing.
Mhm.
And so this, just trying to do this is its task all of its
Yeah.
own. And the way that we learn things is, to be Einstein is all relative, and I mean that quite literally. You learn that this thing over here is a chair, this is something you write on, right? You don't write on the chair, you write on this. And that's how we learn everything. So you have to know at least two things to get an understanding for any one thing. And so it's all self-referencing too. And so you have to build a ladder, and so you have to know how to build a ladder kind of thing. So doing this, the processes we use in methods are one way to do it from like the measurement side. Theory is how we do that with the actual subjects. And so when you start talking about the real world and how things work in crime, as soon as you say crime, there's that tangible thing. And then there's the abstract, like the tangible is, there's something going on right there. And the abstract is, okay, we've got problems. And so we're trying to figure out how to troubleshoot those problems. And so we start brainstorming to some degree, and then depending on the knowledge we have already, it frames how we think. And that's the point of theory, is to teach you how to think, not what to think. And that's also one of the interesting things about this class is that, I'll teach the bad theories just as well as I teach the good, because I want you to know the process there. Know the process, you can develop something new. And that's the whole idea, is that you can take something, you can make it a little bit better, or you can start something completely new if you've got a full framework for the whole process, which is time consuming. That takes you from the time you're an undergraduate to the time you're about to finish the master's to be able to do it. If you're not preparing for it that whole way, it's like that you walk into a dangerous situation. It's like, okay, now you're in the time crunch, and you gotta get you to where you know everything you need to. Citations are a big aspect of it, because what this does is, on the functional side, is any citations will tell you who, what, where, when, and how.
It's almost like journalism,
Yeah, it is.
if you look at it.
It is. And so that's, I usually frame it in the term of triangulation. You've heard me say that word a few times in this class and other classes too, because it's the same process. Media, actually, I think in my graduate class, I identified for them, went that way, because media used to do that. They wouldn't print a single fact.
They used to.
Yes, they used to. They wouldn't print a fact unless they had 3 sources that independently confirmed it. They stopped doing that, and you start seeing how bad information influences society in bad ways. That's why we have to do it this way, and why we work so hard at teaching you this, and why people don't like it, because we're teaching you how to think, and people avoid these subjects because they are difficult. It's difficult to think. So just in that citation, you got the who, what, where, when, and how. So what you have to do is, if you're going to use a sentence that has a citation, you need to focus on what actual aspect you're focused in on. For this class, we don't care one bit about the who. The when and where are going to be together, and that's usually more of a limitation. So we don't really care about that either. So what is it and how does it work? Those are the big ones for this one. And to do that, usually we end up talking about, what it is, what it, how it functions, if I can spell correctly, and then what it does. And that's kind of a general framework how you'll understand anything. Watch this, because it's going to go 1, 2, 3. It's a 3-step process. Right? Numbers come up a lot. 3 is a common one. Right? Yeah. You tell me what it is. Okay. That's this theory. It is defined as blank. By whom? Don't care. I mean, I do care because that's going to tell me what the exact theories you're dealing with, but that's going to tell me what. Okay. How it functions. Well, to do that, you're going to tell me, okay, this theory uses these factors, these concepts. It's the residential stability that feeds the ability for this area to thwart off crime or whatever. That's how it functions. Okay, when we look at it in the research, this is what it actually does. When I measure it, I see that this did actually have a positive effect on this the way that I thought it did. Methods does the same thing. Methods, we'll do a 3-part one, but it's this. You start out here, positive, neutral, negative. 1, 2, 3. What direction does this relationship kind of thing? What are we trying to do with it? Are we doing something that'll have a positive effect, no effect at all, or a negative one? Right? And that's where you start out. What is this doing? Kind of thing. Right? And so when you get to the methods class, we'll tell you about how to set that up, how to run it, and then how to interpret it. Okay?
So does well, I shouldn't even talk about methods.
Yeah,
Because you're about halfway there.
Yeah, so you are halfway there by the time you finish
But
this
when you get
class.
to methods, are they trying to figure out ways to solve the problem? Is that what it is? Or
Mm-mm.
not? Or just, no,
At the initial step is just how to analyze it. Because
just analyze it,
Mhm.
not really solve it, just say,
Yeah.
okay, this is
yeah,
why.
and we stop before we get down to the how to fix it, because it takes about 6 years to 8 years just to get you to the point where you can understand how to fully analyze it, because it's that complicated.
So that's a different whole set of something else.
Yeah.
We're trying to fix,
Yeah.
trying to set up a
Mhm.
procedure or whatever.
Mhm. So overall framework within the field is everyone that you're encountering that's in any types of positions related to this generating research, most of the time's been learning this process. Thing that they've done in their spare time is their specialty areas where they focus their research, what they actually apply that skill set to.
Yeah.
They do that independently of their coursework. And it's like, here, I'm sewing it into your classwork because I need you to see this skill set if you want to go further, because you're going to need it. No matter what field you go into, that analysis aspect of it is going to affect you, whether it's you're here in this class or you're doing research in the field or you're cuffing a suspect. You still have to engage in those same kinds of things because you have to justify what you're doing. You still have to analyze the situation. So these are vital skills. Okay? So what it is, how it functions, what it does. The next step is when you start looking at what it does, start looking at the positive, neutral, or negative. Does it do anything at all kind of thing? And then from there, now that we know how it works, it's how we can actually fix it. Once you get through that entire process, which can seem to take a really long time because they can. So citations, we really only care about the what and how. As you're writing, keep that in mind because it's something that'll creep in because you were taught to write this way. You're going to tell me about who did what kind of thing. This person had a major piece and it had this massive effect, which is true. But on our side, we don't care about that. We care about the ideas. It's one of those phrases been attributed to a number of different people, but they'll say, what is it? Small people talk about people, medium people talk about events, and then big people talk about ideas, kind of things like the minds, small minds, medium minds, great minds. It's like, really, it's like always play with the ideas first, because when you deal with ideas, all this stuff we're doing, there's no destruction here. If I go out and try to do it on the technical side and apply some of these things, that's where you get the danger. That's why I hold back, because it is dangerous. And so that's a little bit about that and how it should be reflected in your writing. When we get into it, at this level, I'm not looking for citations at every sentence. I don't look for that. I do when I'm dealing with some at the oral level, because they need to know where every bit of information they come from or using comes from. So if they don't know that, then it's unfounded. Right? So that's kind of how that starts out. How do you do this though with your topics? That's going to be the subject for today. And we'll start building out for each of you individually, because I'll show you how to do it, because it's a process and you'll pick it up as we go. There's a couple different ways to do it. One's kind of the natural way, which is the way I'd start something if I have completely no idea anything about it. You know, it's like, I don't know, let's go see what's out there, right? If I know what's out there or I know what I want to do, then I change my approach, because I now have an idea for what kinds of things I want to do. And so the directions here change a little bit, because they'll be more self-directed, as in, I know what I'm doing. I can step away from the overall process of understanding something to focus in on what I want to know. That's methods. That's what it does. That's why it takes so long, because it's like, okay, you have this subject that can have to be applied to people across what, federal, state, county, themselves, their individual lives, or individual actions. And so we've got to figure out what part we want to actually look at. And so just to get some knowledge on one small facet of whatever that issue is, you have to go through this whole process. The good thing is people have been doing this for over 100 years. And so you've got a lot to read, meaning that you don't have to go through and do that process for them. You can read them and know, but you have to have that citation for you know where you got that information. It's good. One good citation will prove that you know it. If you have multiples at the end, that means there's more support for it. It gives it more weight. The analogy I've probably given in here before is it's the same thing you'll see if you watch the movie The Exorcist. You just have to figure out who you are in that movie, right? Are you the one who's calling on the bigger name that you need to give you the power that you need to get the point across? Or are you the one who's shooting the split pea green sea packet? Raw!
I've never seen that movie,
Oh,
and it's an old movie.
yeah, that's the 70s one, is because it's, we have to also realize, you know, in terms of the shock values, no one had the kind of stuff they have today. So it's like, you see a little girl who's doing the stuff like projectile bombing is going to be, you know, I'm sure that was a very nasty theater whenever they were screening those, right? Because it's like that, and this is the same thing. That's why you have that same reaction when people avoid it. Some people come into it, and once they leave, once they come in here, you can't get them to leave, kind of thing. So there are those who like this stuff, and if we do it right, you'll love it. So it's all about making the unknown known. So how do we do that? Part of that is triangulation. You start to see who agrees to what. I think in methods class, I'll talk to you about it in terms of reality. To some degree, reality is objective. To some degree, it is subjective, right? So what we agree on is that subjective nature. There are 5 lights in this room. If we all agree to it, doesn't matter how many lights there really are. Everyone agrees that there are 5. And so that's the thing, is we've got to remove our own biases to get at something objectively that has everything associated with life and that relative nature and social, everything social and people. So it's a difficult thing. So the struggles are real. And that's kind of the point of this class is the more you struggle with it, the better off you are, because that means you're using your mind. It's like lifting weights. If I don't give you directions and stuff, there are reasons. I want you to go out there and look. And that's kind of what that purpose of that first outline was, to see, you know, what you know in terms of where to find good resources, how to use them if you know where to find them. And then if you know all those things, there's going to be a conversation about, okay, not all these journals are equal, just like the authors, they're not all equal. We don't care about the authors or the journals, we care about the ideas. But that's a good way to start doing that triangulation thing. Who's actually being honest and not, right? From a research perspective, I could tell you about times that there have been major retractions in our field because somebody flubbed the numbers. I can identify issues that you know, hey, the underlying intent here is there's some question, that kind of stuff. The only way you get that is through diving into it and learning. And so one side's the theory, one side's the methods, and they work together. That's how you get the overall process. But for this one, you need to start out with topic, or theory. Why? Because that is an idea. That is your idea. Right?
Yeah, but we're basically just looking at the topic today, though. right?
That's correct.
With this, it's got two halves. Like
Mhm.
doing this section, topic first, doing theory next, and then you put it together.
Yeah, yeah, and so it's like, what it is here is, I'm just trying to figure out where you want to start. You can start wherever the hell you want, right?
Yeah.
I can actually start at the end and be like, okay, really what I want to look at are, I have a specific method I want to learn, so I'm gonna start there and work it backwards. You can do it any way you want, but there are ways that work better than others, and that's what we're focusing on today. So you start with the general idea of what it is that interests you, whether it's a topic or a theory, it doesn't really matter. We can figure it out from there, because what you do is you start by looking that up. So once you look that up, I'll show you how. Okay. We're only 17 minutes in, that's good. I'm trying to go as fast as I can so I can get as much of this done so we can have next class to play with more textbook stuff rather than this. Is MLA acceptable? Oh, well, let's talk about that real
It's
quick.
MLA or is it,
I don't care.
oh, you don't care
I
what?
literally don't care.
Okay.
And when it comes to citations for my classes,
Like I said, APA.
yeah, and they're usually I'll default to APA. I don't care if it's APA, MLA, or anything else, and there's a reason why. Most will specify this because they want you to learn that, which is good for most courses. That's not what this one is, though. This one's about the ideas. So I don't care about the citation as much as I care about the content and telling it where it came from, right? So APA versus MLA, or even Chicago was the one that was dominant in our area for decades because it was the only place where they could cite Supreme Court cases. They had form for how you would do that, right? So this doesn't really matter because if you look at the well, I didn't send those to you, but if I sent them to you, if as you're looking at the academic research you're looking at, you'll see their citations change shape a lot, right? Every journal does it a little bit different. So what you do is whenever you actually have something you want to do something with, you take it, you go over to that journal and you look how they format theirs and you do the same. So long as you got the basic information as in terms of, I've got the author, the year, the title, the journal, and their volumes, issues, and page numbers. I don't care the format it comes in. We can adjust it if you want to do something with it. That's how it works on that side. And that's a better, more functional way to look at it for you all right now for this class. Because you get hung up in this for a while. So I don't care, just get an idea. And the whole common knowledge versus not common knowledge. It's like, don't worry about that. We'll build that in as we go. Just get a functional understanding of how these ideas work. So first, the natural way. Natural way is you start with whatever you have and do a wide search across multiple platforms. The natural way is to do that because you're getting a full picture of everything that's out there that's going to be sorted by whatever platform you use, however it's specified there. So if I showed you that, let's say share screen, boom. All right, so we'll say, is it library.nsuk.edu? Yes. Scholar, Google. Don't want to put that suggestion right down there. Okay. This one you should already be familiar with because this is the one that everyone has access to. Articles are where you'd want to be for research, case laws for law. When you select law, it'll tell you, are you talking about this one, specific states, and you can select more or federal. We're interested in articles, so we'll start out with any volunteers. Who wants to start with their stuff? So I've got everybody's stuff that they've submitted thus far for this class that has identified their interests. This is where we can develop yours. Who wants to go first?
How does alcohol affect the likelihood that you will be convicted of a crime?
So that's neighbors. There we go. Yes. All right. You. So I have what you sent me. I'll look at that real quick 1 second because it's been a while since I looked at it. Okay. Looking at violent offenses, alcohol, crime in general. So you've got a lot of different things you can pull in here. So really what you'd want to start is you'd want to start wide. And we'd look at alcohol. And if you say just crime in general, I hope I spelled correctly. And see, it'll give you this, alcohol and crime, national now. And so you start looking at this to see, okay, how old is it? Is it a book? You probably don't want to look at books because they'll take a long time to get through. Sometimes they're the ones that are cited for everything and you have to get the book. Avoid them as much as you can because you already have too much to read probably. Because right now this is, how many responses? Oh, it's got right here. 1 million responses, right? So as you start with wide topics, it's much, much more in terms of results, so wide that your biggest thing is going to be figuring out, okay, how much of this do I focus on crime in general, or are there specific crimes, or is there a specific, as I'm talking about my interests, let's see here, person, okay, so we're talking about crime, and we'll talk about not victimization, but we'll talk about this one. All right, I just added in domestic because when you start talking about domestic, you start talking about people's relationships, social ties, that kind of thing. You can put in here social ties if you wanted to, and it'll give you other areas of research. And right, so each of those intersects are points at which you might want to talk about. What you should start with first are those that are as close to the topic and as close to the issue that you want to focus in on. And what you do is you use those as sort of a, almost like the spine as you build out the rest of it. But you have to start with the academic side, because if you start somewhere else, you'll get steered way, way off topic and they will frame it incorrectly just from the get-go. If you do this.
Just kind of like put the two together. It's like,
Mhm.
this was alcohol, I think you said likely convicted of a crime.
Mhm.
So how would.
Yeah, so basically what we start dealing is you have three different domains. You have the probabilities associated with offending. So that's one area. So there's a whole bunch of theories you can tie into it because it's criminal behavior of individuals. So you got your choices there. You have alcohol use and everything that whole body of literature associated with alcohol. And then you have the social ties, if you want to focus on domestic, if you want to focus on friends, if you want to focus on peers, whatever it is you want to focus in on. And that's how you start building out the projects. And
When the theory comes in. and
yes,
start talking about
yes,
that,
and the theory is what gives you the propositions for the relationship
like
between.
social learning.
Yeah, so it's like,
social.
so if I were to do a like kind of a depiction on the board of what this looks like as you're doing it, and I'll show you this next step for the library's website. Because you do the same thing across the library stuff. Right? And so wide search, you start with topics. This one we have alcohol, we had crime, and we had maybe some social aspect of it, right? Each of these words, let's do it a little bit differently so it makes some more sense. Crime, social, right? So each of these are going to be spheres of bodies of literature, right? There you go. Those are your different areas that you're going to want to talk to, right? Alcohol, crime, and social relationships. Those are going to be your big things that you want to focus in on your paper. So these would be IV, DV. From a methods perspective, so your dependent variable is crime generated. Your independent variables, is it related to their alcohol use or some social ties? Right, so that's the kind of question you're coming at from a methods perspective. When you write this topic up, as in here, we're writing a paper, the first thing you're going to talk about is the crime and alcohol relationship as you're setting up that problem in your introduction, right? From there, you're going to talk a little about social stuff and how it affects alcohol and crime, right? It's pretty straightforward. As you look these items up, each of these are going to have vast bodies represented by those circles. You'll pull in as much of those circles as you want, but the big thing you want to do is get as much of these overlaps as possible, right? Because the more those things overlap, the stronger that triangulation will work, right? Because if you're dealing with more specific topics and the closer those topics are, the closer the research is in those areas. So you tighten up that triangle and you target your target more accurately. It's all a process that's reflective of you consuming this massive body of literature and boiling it down. It's a very, very difficult process, which is why we have theories to give you, okay. So over the last 100 years, we've been doing a whole lot of research and we've identified that there is, in fact, a relationship here, right? And in the ways that we've measured it, we can see what direction it goes, whether it's both directions or one way or other directions. Then we can see, does it help? Does it do nothing? Does it hurt? And then, okay, now that we've got an understanding of how it works, what it is, what it does, now we can start to affect. And that's the part that we usually alter on the applied side. And so the papers for in here essentially are a literature review. We've heard that phrase before. This is what a literature review should do, is it synthesizes all the existing research for the areas that you're addressing. The way that you get those propositions and the causal nature of it is by building up of theories that already exist, or revising them, or coming up with a new. If you're coming up with a new, you need to have decades into this, more decades than what I have. And most people don't get that in the course of their lifetime. That's why that's a hard thing to do. This process alone, just learning it takes years. And so that's it. Now, there are different ways to compile this. I've kind of alluded to that before. An easy way would be to pull every research article that addresses these things, read every single one of those, and every single bit of information you think is useful, to write it down as a quote and have it on an index card with the topic on the back and then sort by topics. That would be a very technical, functional way of doing it. You can create a spreadsheet that has your quotes, that has the author in one cell, the year in another, page number after that, and has the quote. You do that, you've got a spreadsheet of quotes for whatever topic that you have for perpetuity. So you've got a database of information that provides you a firm evidence for anything that you say. If you do that, you're good for whatever it is you delve into that topic forever. Most people don't do that because they don't have time. They've got to read all this stuff, keep it in their minds, and remember how it all works and fit it all together live in front of people. And that's the other part of it is, as AI increases, the online thing will go away. You guys will be back in the room because that's the only way we'll be able to verify what's in your head. That'll be something that actually matters. It won't be this. It'll be this. Because computers can do this too now. And so you need to be able to do it better and in ways that they can't think, because they can bridge that known and unknown here as well. We can't do that. It's thousands of years doing it. Okay, so that's that one. That's the natural one. If you already have an idea for what your theory is, right? Start with the theory. Look up the theory first, and then add in your DV, your dependent variable, the thing that actually interests you, your topic. That's its own body of research that you need to start with, right? You've got your theory, the thing that interests you, and the thing you think is causing it. You need to build that in, right? And so that's that logic side of it. You have to walk through the whole process logically. The theory start to do that for you, right? And for this, you're just trying to get an understanding of what's out there. In methods, what I'll do is I'll show you how to take what's out there and create something of your own that you do something that's unique and generates new information. All about narrowing it down. You start as wide as possible, you go through multiple sources, and then you boil that down so you get the actual gold that's in those hills, those mountains of information. And then when you've done that, you bring it right back over here to theory again. You have a theory that you're working with, great. If you don't, you start looking at what theories have been used in all that research. Because that's going to identify what theories you probably should be using, because there are reasons why the researchers made the decision. As you're reading those things, you should also be writing like them, right? If they talk about ideas, they don't talk about people and that good stuff. So you take it back to theory, you write it up in terms of you outline the theory, you outline the concepts, and here's how it works. And once you've done that, the paper's done, and you're set up to run the next one. For this, doing it functionally. Yeah, I showed you Google. Google pulls up 1.8 million.
Question is, how do you match the theory to your topic? I mean,
That's the hard part. So that's why you kind of start naturally. Start with what interests you, and you let it dictate at first. Once you have a strong understanding of how each of the theories works, then you get to play with them, and that's integrating the theories themselves. That's where we're at now in terms of academic practitioners.
Yeah, we're looking at all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it gets very complex very quick. And so that's the whole point of methods, is how to keep it simple. And so that we can take one little bite at a time. And so here on the library's website, you can do it this way. You can enter it in here and it'll search all of them. I don't like that. I like to actually go in and do it myself because I know which ones work a little bit better. You can do whatever way you want, but some of the ones that work pretty well here, your academic search, Premier, and what was the other one? So you'll probably have Sage. That's R. Still R. There we go. Oh, you don't have Sage. That's surprising. I'm gonna have to change that one. Okay, so you got Sage, and then the other one was JSTOR. That's another one that comes up a lot. There you go. All right, so at least from an initial start, what I'd do is I'd start in these three areas. I'd start with the Google Scholar, I'd start with JSTOR, and then I'd start with academic search. Starting with academic search, click into databases. Because this will identify, hey, there's multiple databases here, and it's only searching one of them.
What was that one? J what? I've seen that one.
JSTOR, that's a very common for us. So they'll have a lot of legal stuff in here, plus a lot of our research will pop over on this side too. These are the most common ones though. So yeah, so for this one's with EBS co-host, it'll let you select which database. Start out with academic search Premier. I want to say it's a little bit wider than Elite, and it actually includes the same areas as Elite. Other areas you want to click into, come all the way down here. You probably want the psych stuff because sometimes that will come up. You definitely want social sciences. Slow down. Social sciences. Apparently it doesn't like me clicking that. There we go. Social work, maybe. Sociological, yes. Legal, sometimes, right? And so from a start, you can start with those. And it will slow down the search a little bit. Yeah, I said, okay, use those. Okay, and so this one we'd say alcohol, crime, and then you'd go maybe social. And we'll just leave it as social because there's so many different things that can pull in there, right? If you list and there, it's looking for things that have each of those things. Or means or, of course. So use it like your normal search. Click that. Okay. Give you a whole bunch of stuff. All right. And so this will start to direct you in terms of what types of crimes you might want to focus in on in their relationships to alcohol. That'll be the first thing that you want to start to look at, right? Because to some degree, the crime is going to dictate what types of theories, and some degree, the use of alcohol is going to dictate it too, right? And depending on your crime, it works a little bit different. First thing you want to do, peer reviewed. Next thing you want to do, full text. Okay, now you're down to something that's consumable. You can look through these pretty quickly. You can look at their titles, and then you look at their abstracts to determine whether or not you want to read the full thing. Right, so this is geography. If you want to do something spatial, we can do that. You got violence, alcohol outlets, and drug arrests. What's the spatial relationship there? That's one question. Aggressive crime, alcohol and drug use, and concentrated poverty. You probably want to start here. This would be a good one to start with. Yeah, this is probably an older one. Yeah, that's a little older. That's one that you should probably look at. I would definitely click into that one. And if we do that, and you should save the PDFs, of course, because that's your personal library. If I showed you mine, it's going to be large. All right, aggression to abstract. Nexus between substance use and aggressive crimes. There you go. You're starting to get closer to your areas, right? Because you said violent crimes. Interrelationships between mediating individual and community level variables. Okay, so what this is a multi-level thing, probably, meaning they're looking at both people individually and how they come together, meaning it's going to be more complex as you look at it. So they're going to hit more topics, meaning it's probably going to be even more useful, right? And then as you look through it, he's going to give you an outline for what it is doing right now, illegal drugs, alcohol, violent crime, and how they started to do it. Some sections will devote entirely to theory. It depends on really the journal. Some journals will push theory more than others. All right, so association of our research, and they, instead of having the standard citations, they do with numbers. I hate that. So now I'm going to scroll all the way down to the end and look to see what they have in here. Okay. Now looking at its references, legal drug use, Mexican-wide arrests. So that's another potential source. Alcohol aggressive American. Okay. Parker, alcohol homicide rates. That's an older one. So that's one that's really old. That's kind of curious why they put that in there. You should probably look to see why they use that, right? Alcohol use, anger relationships, don't care. Fagan, intoxication and aggression. Okay, that's a book. That means that's probably where your theory is coming from, one of those areas, right? So what you'd do is you'd go and look up these people and those topics, right? So you look up Fagan, intoxication and aggression, maybe Tonry, and this book to see what types of topics come up. If you keep looking, they might pull more into theory at some point, like this one. That's another book. Fagan's a name in our field that I recognize. So that means that one's probably important. Samson's a huge name. So that's definitely a book you'd want to read, right? So this is crime prevention. So they're probably using, let's see if it's not in alphabetical order. So they're using, there you go. Life course theory, maybe. Depends on what they're focused in on. Life course usually comes up when you start dealing with juveniles. So if it's a juvenile one, they'll start focusing on that. They're dealing with that within this. If it's not, it might just be they're dealing with situations and crime prevention, and that's their theoretical backing are those theories. As you dig more into this, you're going to see that some will do it in this way, and you'll see that they talk about situations, about opportunities and those things, and you have to infer from it to some degree that they're using opportunity-based theories. Or maybe in this one, they're using social disorganization theory, or in this one, they're using control theory. Most of the time, they'll identify it directly, and you'll see it in those citations. So you have to look for the names associated to it to some degree. Really, what you're looking for is the ideas and how they put it together, right? And so what you'll see here in this section, the introduction is very, very small, but they'll give you some idea for why they're looking at it this way, and they move right off into how they're doing it. Articles that use more theory, they'll spend a lot more time talking about how it all works. So you get all of those elements of those theories. This is one that can be really complex if you start getting into the ecology of crime. This book talks about it in the early chapters really quickly because it's one that does have more practical and technical applications. But yeah, so you'd start there. You'd want to look into Fagan. You'd want to look into Samson and Samson and Lobb, of course. Samson and a lot of Samson. Yeah, so you'd probably be using Samson. I'm trying to remember how they exactly classified that because he crosses a couple of those theories. But that's how you'd want to start with that is look at this guy. You see his name's coming up there a few times. Check to see what theories he's using for most of his research. There's probably an overlap there too, right? So you start working those overlaps. And that's the big thing for this lesson right here with the analytical mind things. Analysis. It's like we know to some degree what the boxes are, but what's in the box, right? And not only is it what's in the box, it's sometimes these boxes, that box is filling into this box, right? And so I need to find out what's in these spaces between. That's the purpose of the stats, is it literally, quite literally separates these things out so you can see those spaces between. And that's where the real value comes in, because that's like having 3 people giving you information about a fact, something that factually occurred. 2 people are confirming it, 1 person's denying it. What's the likelihood it actually happened? It starts increasing, doesn't it? Right? And you start adding in what you actually see when you look. Well, now you've got your conclusive evidence. There are no conclusions in this field of theory. There's nothing is ever proven. We're always just trying to fix it and understand it better. That's why we don't worry about being right. We don't worry about having the technical stuff right. Really, at the initial stages, we worry about, let's play. We've got some ideas to play with. It's time for you to start playing, right? And you've already started. And that's what I want you to do, start playing with this, right? See what you find. And then as you have questions, come and ask. When we have class time, that's time to start bringing that stuff in, right? I've started with yours in this class and we're running low on time already. And you're probably getting some ideas for how this should shape up. Am I correct? Jeffrey, am I correct? All right, well, I'm going to assume I'm correct. That's a bad thing to do. You should always verify that. Whenever you're able to
His
speak,
microphone may not-
yeah, it could be that, or it could be off taking notes, but that's good. Good information. You should be taking notes. As we do this, maybe we're gonna run out of time before I finish with this one. We'll run through each of your guys' stuff so that way you can start to see how it works and get an idea for it. Because it literally is, you're literally trying to consume an entire body of research that's a lot bigger than what you think. And so that old phrase of how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. one research article at a time, one sentence at a time. And you start with the ideas, and those ideas on a broad scale is theory. When you delve into theory, you get the concepts and how they work. So you start with your theory if you want one, like if you have one you want to work with. But the topics, right? The topics will what drive are the thing that we're trying to get to. The theory is the vehicle. So is methods, right? One's the engine, one's the wheels, kind of thing. And so we got to get there. This is how we do it. That's that process of triangulation. That's it in this area. We also addressed it to some degree over in methods, and you can use that in everything. It's the same thing Sherlock Holmes does. In methods, they'll talk about it in terms of inductive and deductive reasoning. As you look at theories, you'll see that theories are all written about the same. What you won't know, what you won't get until you've already started to consume these bodies and you start working with it, is the process for how they develop. And that's a subject for next time, I suppose. It's the same thing that you'd see in Sherlock Holmes. Inductive and deductive reasoning. Inductive, some theories start out at the ground where you have someone who's quite literally, their feet are on the ground and they're literally just watching something. I should remember the name associated with it, but I don't. Broken windows theory. One of you guys mentioned that. That's broken windows theory. It's very close to social disorganization theory, all the other theories. Well, how it's different is what they did is, if you actually read the article, they took a couple cars into a few different, it's like a couple different neighborhoods. Can't remember exactly how many, but the ones that mattered was, I think it was either high class and low class, like low income areas, or it was high, middle, and low income areas. Can't remember. They left a vehicle there to see if it'd get vandalized, assuming that since the area is run down, no one gives a crap. They're going to vandalize it. No one touched the vehicle until they went and broke a window in each of the vehicles. And then in all three areas, the same thing happening. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, so what it is it's that broken window sends that signal, no one gives a crap. No one gives a crap. You know what? I've got some frustrations to get out. And as soon, in some of those areas, I think the poor area was a little bit different because as soon as they saw someone vandalizing it, people joined in. In the other areas, what happens is you vandalize it, you left it for a while, then people did it when they thought no one was watching, right? And that's the tenet, the principle behind it. It's all from the ground. It starts there. Really interesting story about that one is this: if you look where it's published, it's not published in an academic journal because those people are policing background. I assume probably didn't like this whole process and peer review and all that kind of stuff. So they did it that way. A good way to get their point across, but it'd be better if it was over here too, because then it gives more weight to both sides, kind of thing. But, well, it is over here too, because they went and started doing the research, but that's a different conversation. It's all about the ideas. It's all about figuring out how things work. And to do that, we need to know something to get us started. And we start that by getting out there and digging. And that's it. Remember, it's a work in progress. It's an end goal is to have an understanding for this. It's not the subject of this course. The subject of this course is to figure out how it all works. And that's it right there. You figure out what we're actually dealing with, what concepts exist, how we think it works, that's theory. And we start looking to see what other people have done and use it in some new way or find out something new. Whether it's in the math side that we pull out something different, or whether it's in the logic side as in we're looking at something differently.
Thank you for getting so in depth with that.
Yeah, and I'm going to do that with each of you guys. We'll try to do it within class time over the next, probably it'll take us a week because that took me a lot longer than I thought. Of course, I'm overviewing the whole project. He'll move faster as we go subsequently for each of you guys. So that way we can I can teach you this process because it's something that
I can tell you what mine is, but it's something that, maybe you could just think about it until next class.
okay, we'll do that in just a second.
Okay, and I don't even know if it's a good topic, but it's all about, and school shootings have been done
Yeah.
to the hilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit of a twist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you had that Oxford shooting
Okay.
in Oxford, Michigan,
When was this? Was this recently?
in 22. But remember the parents were charged in the case?
Yeah, it's okay, I did.
They're in court right now. Tomorrow, the father goes to trial.
Ooh, I did not know because I've not been following.
Yeah, they've been in jail for 2 years. They charged the wife and she got convicted and I don't know, they haven't sentenced her yet. So it's kind of in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
But see, I'm trying to put together about, and this is something that's unprecedented. They've never
Mhm.
done anything on this yet. It's new. It's like school shootings are,
Yeah, now you're gonna hold someone else responsible for your legal
but
actions.
now they are, because they got him on 4 counts of manslaughter and him on 4 counts of manslaughter. Plus, I think they got him on a gun charge too. But the problem is. I kind of get where you do the first part, where you do the
Mhm.
topics, you probably just cover, do the research on kind of the what part of it.
Yeah,
But then when you put the theory in there, it's kind of where I'm a little bit,
that one would be really hard because what that one is.
I think it's more of a social,
okay,
is it
so
social control maybe?
you did something there that's really good. It's also really good. See it.
Yeah,
I can't remember if this book talks to it as much. A lot of other textbooks, and not even just textbooks, like if you go on like, for example, papers, and like, I've got books from him where he talks about there. I got books from a lot of these people that do that kind of stuff. And what the ways that they classify theory is that they usually classify in a couple different ways. I think it was maybe it was crime prevention, but they did it this way. They said this area is atheoretical crime prevention. No, it's not atheoretical, but you can run it without really thinking about theories, because the theory is one of aggregation, and so that's method stuff. Lost my train of thought.
that-
Big,
I kind of got that part of it down, I think, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just starting to, citations is where I'm at now, the references are trying to.
Mhm.
Having a problem with the internet ones, because the citations, usually a book's easy, because you got the author, then you got all that's easy.
Mhm.
But I don't know much about the internet, because you
Yeah.
got your address, your HTTPS. That's, all I understand that, but when you get in the parentheses part of it, if it doesn't have an author, how do you?
Yeah,
How do you do
it gets more difficult. Sometimes you use the title of the work and the date. But it just really depends. And I'm gonna get to where yours is kind of interesting, because what it is classification of theories. And the books do this differently too, depending on which book you're actually reading. And
Yeah.
so, they'll classify it. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll skip this stage entirely, and they'll go like, okay, these are your social, your psych, your whatever. And it's like, okay.
Biological.
Yeah, it's like, that's of some use if you want to turn in terms of like, different domains and other areas you want to tie into, which is good.
So I think the social aspect of it is, because it's, I don't know, I may be in the wrong area, but I'm thinking social control, because parents are supposed to control their children's social, and these parents didn't, they just, I can see where this kid was messed up, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, trying to figure out what category that fits into.
Mm-hmm.
The parents just drop the ball on responsibility
Oh, God,
all
yeah.
over the place.
Oh, well, here's where yours is, and that's the bit.
And
So the vast majority of theory we talk about, it focuses on criminality, which is usually talking about individuals, like
Yeah.
why they create,
Yeah.
why they commit crime, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some of it does it in terms of, these are the theories in terms of how crime manifests or is generated. Those are gonna be like chapter 2, I think, or something like that. Talk about routine activities theory, your situational stuff, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of in that rat or the crime prevention side kind of things where you see a lot of that. But this is also all of your geographic stuff too. Over here, you won't see much research, because this is the research that's at the base of the pillar. This is you're actually over here in philosophy to some degree, philosophy and
Yeah.
function.
so that's probably what this is philosophy, because
What is
there's
it?
no research on it.
Mhm. And so for that, what you end up with is, if you dial back to the earliest stuff in on field, you start down, you're back to utilitarianism kind of thing. And, with the current theories with that, you're back over here. They're not doing anything about how it actually functionally works in terms of those people. They're sending a message. And that's what we need to assess there.
Yeah.
What is that message doing? How much is it gonna piss people?
Because I can see what the relation is between the parents.
Mhm.
The parents not teaching their child properly, I
Yeah.
don't know, I can
Mhm.
see that.
And so they're trying to deter crime by getting the parents to step up more, by holding them criminally liable.
Well, yeah,
And so it's like, yeah, you can do that. You can try to force that. What does it do anytime you try to exert force on people?
because I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
novel, because
Mhm.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
You've never seen them be charged with parents. I
Yeah.
don't think I have you ever seen that? Dave?
No, not like that.
Not-
I
which
did
they
see
could.
where it was discussed probably a few years prior. They had it was another school shooting. I can't remember what the situation was, but it was the kid actually stole his mother's rifle. It was like an AK-47. It was in an urban area. He stole that and used it.
I think it was that one in Florida.
I don't remember which one it was. I just remember it was like, oh my gosh, hopefully they don't try to hold that person responsible for someone else's criminal actions, because that's not how it works.
But see, I think why they're doing this is just my own belief.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're trying to get a handle on this, so if they start punishing the parents,
Mhm.
maybe they'll watch their kids a little bit more
You
closely.
ever watched The Animal Farm? Read the book?
Yeah,
It's that.
is that what it
It's
is?
that. They're
Yeah.
playing popularity and they're playing the social game
Yeah.
to see what kind of power they can get.
Yeah,
And that's why society's going off
Well,
its rails.
that's what I'm gonna do, and if I'm way off base, I'm way off base, but
Okay,
that's,
I'd frame it in terms of deterrence theory, because that's really what you're gonna be at, and then as you're developing it,
you think it's what, deterrence?
Deterrence, because it's
Oh,
about the
okay.
message
Yeah.
that it sends. It's
I'll have
about.
to, I'll have to look at that.
Mhm.
And another thing, I don't know what it was about that.
All right, I'm gonna hang
I
this
don't know
up.
what-
Bye, guys.